So these are the tools I got for this job. This is the small tube cutter, and ideal for tight spaces, especially when you have to work with brake lines that are still on your vehicle. And then the flaring tool, I went with this Titan. It's a double flaring tool, and it's also compact, something that you could use while you have your brake lines still on the vehicle, like I'm going to have. So it's your basic tool. Let me show you the components here. You have a instruction booklet to show you what to do. Then what you have is you have the tool with a removable handle that just screws off and on, and that's just very helpful if you want to use it in a vise, for instance. You can just take this off, but if you're under the vehicle, maybe you use it as is. Then you have your punch, both sides. This is going to alternate, and then this is your stop screw, and this stops as your brake line goes in. It just stops it at the right length so that your punch could reach it. And then of course you also have the two screws you use to tighten it, and then some paste that you put on as your punch goes in. So let's have a look and see how this works. I'm going to use this also now for just holding my brake line as I cut it, because it's going to keep it firmly in place without damaging the brake line. So let me start with that. Now, when I got this brake line from the shop, it has a bubble flare on the side, which is not what I really want. The bubble flare is a little different from the double flare that we are going to try and do. So you'll notice that this screw over here has a small elongated part over there without threads that is different from the one that you'll find that you'll use for a double flare. Now I realized that the connector that comes with the bubble flare like this is a connector that it has, I don't know if you can see this, share some light on there. You'll see it has a sort of half moon indented shape in there, which then connects with the bubble itself. So it's going to fit exactly in there when you connect it. Now, a double flare connector looks quite different. It on the inside, first of all, you'll see that your threads go all the way to the end, and not the same as this one. But then the other thing you find is inside it looks quite different. It has a small raised center there in the middle, and that is to connect with the double flare, which looks different. Instead of bubbling out, it goes in, and therefore it connects with that connector like that. Now I'm going to just draw the difference between the two so that you can know what you're dealing with. Just excuse my drawing. I was never really good in art or anything like that. But the bubble flare actually comes out and has a kind of a bubble like that. And so what you find then is that the connector that is going to get on there is going to be shaped like that same half moon shape to accept that, so it fits in very, very neatly onto that. Of course, you're going to have your threads coming out like this. There you go. So that's the bubble flare. Now the double flare is going to be a little bit different, because what you're going to have is you're going to have your brake line coming out, and then the flare is actually, instead of making the bubble, it's actually going to be shaped more like this, which means it's doubled around. And the connector that you're going to use then for this type of flare is going to be shaped like that and come around. So what's pretty clear now is that this type of double flare is not going to seal properly in that type of connector, and the bubble flare is not going to seal properly in the double flare connector. So you got to just match up the flare that you're using with the connector that you're using, and it's either got to be both of them have to be a bubble flare, or both of them have to be a double flare. Now this is the one that I'm going to be doing, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. So this is the bubble flare side, and I'm going to cut this off so that I could make a double flare on it. Now, as I said, I'm going to use the flare tool just to clamp it down, and basically what you do is you just put that in position, and you've got two little bolts. These are 10 millimeters, and you can just bolt that down. So what's nice about using this, of course, as a clamp is that you don't damage your brake line, and yet at the same time it's holding it nice and firmly in place. Now the cutting tool is just going to go across the brake line like that, and what you're going to do is just tighten that so it's nice and snug. You don't want it too tight initially, because you're going to tighten it as you go. And then you just start wrapping it around. Wrap it a few times, tighten it some more, wrap it again, tighten it some more. You just keep doing this. Eventually it comes off, just like that. Now what you want to do is prepare the surface for your flare. You can take a utility knife and you can just deburr that on the inside. Once you've got that nice and neat, you can just neaten it up with the file. Now we're going to make sure you've got the bolt for the connector slid it over before you do the flare on the side. Otherwise you obviously won't get it in again. Now you put your brake line back in again. And you fasten your bolts. You're just going to make them finger tight for now. And then you're going to slide your brake line backwards. And now you're going to insert your stop screw. It goes in from the top here, only by hand. And then you slide your line all the way in so it stops tight against that stop screw. Now what you want to do is tighten your bolts so that it holds the line in place. You can alternate between them. And what I found is that it's really important to get these super tight. When I say super tight, I don't mean, you know, you have to break the tool, but if they are not nice and tight, what's going to happen is when you try and flare, it's going to just push the brake line back, and then you won't get a proper flare. So once these are tight, you're good to go. Take out the stopper screw, and now it's time to use your punch. You'll see there's a little arrow there, OP1. It shows you the side that needs to go in first. And so you just put a dab of your paste on there, and then it goes straight in. Now you're going to use a 17mm wrench to tighten this, and what you want to do is you're going to tighten this all the way. There's going to be some resistance, of course, as you do that, and you want to tighten it until it bottoms out against the block over here. Once you've got it bottomed out there, it's time to undo this again. Now you're just going to flip this around, get a bit more paste on there, and it's going to go straight in for a second round. Now what you'll do is just tighten this up again, and once again you want it to bottom out against the block over there. Once it's bottomed out, it's just a matter of undoing it again. Comes right out, and you just loosen up your bolts again. And there you have your double flare. Give it a wipe. I've got the long brake line here, but there you can see that's the double flare right there. And this is going to fit perfectly into the connector that we have for it. Now with the right connector for the double flare, it's going to go on exactly like that, and then you just screw on the connecting bolt like that, and it's going to give you the connection that you want. Double flared connection that is legal in most states.